where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? And that's why you got to be careful, beloved. And I know, we might get in our little moment of emotions and say some things that you probably have no business saying, and then God come back and check you. And sometimes when God check you, it hurt your feelings. We have yet to hear Job answer any of the Lord's Q&A, but it's Q&A time for Job and for God and for Job. And God says to him, question, where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare it. Declare it. You tell me where you were when I laid the foundations of the earth. Verse 5. Then he asked another question. Who have laid the measures thereof? Do you know the measures of the earth, Job? See, once again, I just have to go into a posture of worship. I just have to go into a posture of worship. When God takes you into a moment of Q&A, questions and answers, he's reminding you of who you are and who he is. That part right there. He said, where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Declare it if you have an understanding, Job. Where were you? He says, who have laid the measures thereof? Do you know the measures of the foundations of the earth? Or who have stretched the line that determines this to be the earth thus far and no further? See, when you got to know God, beloved. You got to know your God. You got to know you. You got to know to stay in your lane. You got to know to stay in your place, because when God come back at you, and he was clapping back at Job, when he come back and he began to read you, I can only believe by faith that Job was just like, oh my God, I humbly bow my head. I have no answers to God's almighty questions. What would you say if God asked you, where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? What were you doing? Around about the time I decided I want to lay the foundations of the earth. Declare it if you have an understanding. Then he says, well, who laid the measures thereof? Do you know, Job? Or who can stretch the line